Hi everyone, this is Victoria from We Are the Music Makers, and today we are talking about how to mix up your elementary music warm-up routine. In my last video, we talked about a warm-up routine for elementary music. Now, this warm-up routine is something that I do for every single class and every single grade, so it's important to me that I mix it up. I want the structure of this warm-up to stay the same, but for my students' sake and for my own sanity, I need to keep it from becoming stale. So here are some of my favorite ways to mix up an elementary music warm-up routine. The first way is with the steady beat or the rhythm activity. Now, if you watched the last video, you remember that my students always start with a steady beat or a rhythm activity. Normally we do this with movements or with body percussion, but an easy way to mix it up would be to put a bucket of rhythm sticks by the door, and then when students walk in, they'll just grab a pair of rhythm sticks and do the same activity with that percussion instrument. If you have more time, you can take an instrument and put it at every student's spot so that when they walk in, they'll walk in doing whatever activity you're doing. And then once they get to their spot, they'll just pick up that instrument and do the activity from there. If you do this, it can be a little bit more fun because there's more of a variety of instruments, but I would have students pass to the right every so often so that students get more of a chance to play a lot of different instruments. A second thing I can do in my warm-up to keep it from being stale is when we sing our greetings and our tonal patterns. I mentioned last video that one way I like to do this is by switching up my question every lesson. But another thing I can do is change what I'm asking students to do with the tonal patterns that we echo. Instead, they could answer a melodic question from me, or they could turn to a neighbor and take turns echoing each other's patterns. The third part of my warm-up is a rhythm activity, and here I like to change things up quite a bit. This can be done pretty easily just by having students pick up those instruments that they brought in with them at the beginning of class. Or we can do things like create an 8-beat pattern with your partner. Or I could ask students to get into small groups of 2 or 3 or 4, and I could clap a pattern to them and they arrange it on the instruments in their group. I can also ask students to create a pattern that they need to retain, and then we can put it on barred instruments later. Or I could clap a pattern and students can think of words that match my rhythm. So there are lots of ways that I can change up this elementary warm-up routine to keep it fresh and engaging for my students. If you have a warm-up routine, I would love to hear some about it, and I would also like to hear how do you keep your classroom routines from becoming stale. Thanks so much for watching, and happy teaching!